welcome to this tutorial about the Nukes viewer, which I know it's a basic thing, so kind of hard to find it at a later episode, but it's available for search. So basically what we're going to look at is all the different tools that you see around here, like all the settings and stuff of the viewer. So we're going to go into detail. I'm going to load the plate that we've been looking at for quite some time. So here we have the footage. So, no need to say this is the timeline. Sorry, I'm just gonna start it at, here we go, 175. There we go. So here's the timeline. When I press play, at the bottom you're going to see orange line being drawn. This is your viewer caching all the images into your RAM for real-time playback. Again, depending on your computer, graphics card, and other thing, you might get different speed and result. So this is for timeline. Here you're going to see the frame rate at which your footage is being played at. So sometimes, as you can see, it's showing me like a weird frame rate as it's caching. Hopefully, once everything's done, it's going to play a flawless 24 frame per second, as you can see. So, and what's fun about this is you can actually scrub and analyze what's going on with the footage of your plate. Here you have timeline frames, so, or you can have it by time code depending on how you work in-house and how you're trying to correct stuff that your client might be wanting you to correct something at 1 minute 11 at 22 frames, for example. I prefer working in time frame, but I'm always wary about the the edit part, because we're just a small piece of the, well, small or big piece depending on the film or show or commercial. So here we have different playback options. So you can have repeat, bounce, stop, continue. So when it arrives at the end of the timeline, like any other nonlinear system, it just plays back. Or I can have bounce, which it's going to bounce back once it reached the end. And you can have it so it stops. So when you press play, and then at the end it's going to stop. There we go. I usually leave it at repeat. Here we have in. So basically, let's say you're fixing something at a proper, like a particular frame range. Well, you're going to want to, let's say I want to watch from 50 to 86. So you have in and out. And again, by leaving my mouse over the button, you're going to see options and shortcuts available for to you. So if I press play, it loops back, or I can set it to bounce. Same deal as before. So you can check your mask, your camera tracking, your everything with that feature. So I kind of like it. Right now I'm going to go Alt I, like it. No, sorry. Yeah, Alt I. There we go. Oh, because my cursor wasn't on top of the viewer. So here's for playback. Then you have go to start, and this will go to the start of your in or end point if you have those activated. So back and forth. Then if you have keyframes here, I'm gonna do a quick example with a roto. Let's say I have a roto. You see the blue, like I explained it earlier. The blue is showing up a keyframe, then another keyframe, then another keyframe. So I have my shape moving. But if, let's say, I want to go back exactly there, instead of scrubbing and trying to find that next keyframe, well, you can go clicking on So yeah, I make sounds. So basically, you can switch between keyframes by using back and forth with that little key over here. Go to previous frame. So this will scrub like one frame at a time. Same thing, back and forth. Playback, reverse. Playback, stop, and play forward. So basic VHS playback. And here, what's fun is that I usually use it when I have a lot of roto to do or just rough. So you can set, like, let's say I set it to 50. So basically it's going to go to 50 to 100 to 150. So I can go in and do like garbage mask, or then when I refine it, I sometimes, go down to 10 or 25, 10, 5, whatever. So that's usually when I use it. So this goes for the bottom. Oh, nice. I actually never used the flipbook option because I'm used to having a machine that actually gives me proper playback, but interesting. So you have multiple, wow, this is cool. So yeah, you can flipbook the shot. That's fun. And capture as viewer. Never tried that. Hey, there you go. That's fun. So yeah, so there's multiple. See, I've been using Nuke since 2003, and I'm still discovering little buttons that at one point you're just used to using, certain amount. So this basically did a quick GL capture. That's fun. Okay, so there goes, and log the same frame number as all. Ah, that's fine. And this guy is interesting. Okay, so this is it. Here you have global. So global will use what you set up in terms of frame range in your project settings. Input, it'll take into account the frame range you have in here in your read. Usually, there seems to be a bug though right now. Okay, I'll try to demystify that, but usually it would have, take into account my inputs in and out. Same deal with your in and out point, and visible. That's another function that I rarely use, but still it's there. Okay, so we have this. Now at the top, you have two features, two sliders here, which are great for, when you don't have time to, or you're trying to figure out which node to bring in. Let's say you're trying to see the luminance value of the ground versus the sky. Well, in a sense, you can go in and look at, what kind of extraction you can do here. So if you go into luminance or different setting, RGB, so you can see that all the channels and what you think you're going to be able to extract out of those really quickly by using here the gain and here the gamma. So it's fun to see all your highlight values, shadows values, so everything. But be careful to press reset when your lead is coming by, because if your shot looks like this and you're trying to compensate with, let's say, a grade, well, at one point it gets complicated. But what's fun is I tend to use those values. So let's say I want 0.375. Well, I can go in and just put the gamma at 0.375, and I will get the same result. So it's a quick way to see what kind of values you're trying to adjust. And also it gives you, the range of the camera. So basically here, I know that the Blackmagic camera, the 4K camera was used here. Well, basically this is clipping. So there's no more value once I go down. So there you go for this. Top corner here, you're going to have none. So basically, if I do that, there's nothing being displayed. RGB, if I do A, it'll never show up an alpha. RGB A will give you RGB and alpha. So RGB alpha. So you can see the channel once you click A. And here you have, again, alpha. And here, under other layers, you're going to see a lot of layers being available. But however, from the read node and that input, I do not have all of these. These are like preset channels that are set because other nodes are using those. And if ever they come into play in your master tree, you're going to see it show up. So let's say if I have a read with a CG element that has depth, if I look at it through the viewer, it's going to show, the depth is now going to show up in that column. So just be wary that you always go back to your setting. Here you have the color display. So basically right now my viewer is displaying the color range in sRGB. You have Rec 709, so if you work in commercial, that's a good thing to, again, depending on your TD and the way your studio is set up. So just look at that. Here, what's fun is that if I go here, I'm going to create another read with myself. There we go. So if I do 1 on here and 2, and I can now, when I'm hovering over the viewer, I can now switch between 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So basically it switches between the read nodes. So I can go and do this for 9 different input. It's fun when you're comparing a lot of shots or you want to go back and forth between, let's say, the end of your tree and then go back to the original and see how it's being affected. For example, if I were to do a grade here and have it purple, I can actually go in and do a wipe between 1 and 2. So you can now look at the 2 and how everything reacts. So I can go in and do, let's say, a quick key. So now I can go in between the original and this. So I can actually look at, you know, if everything's the same in between my final key or the bottom of my tree, sorry, not the number. Okay, so, and then you can look at, you know, different options here. You can have read 3. So you can switch between those through this window. You can activate the wipe. And then you can go in and have multiple, you can do minus. So if I were to compare the two or compare the original of your nuke script to the plate to see if you're losing any details or whatever, that's a good way to do that. And yeah. On your right side here, you have multiple option of selection, and here you have 2D tab, 3D viewer. So this will activate the 3D viewer, which I'll do a little bit more tutorials on the 3D option in Nuke. Right side, left side, top, bottom, front, back. They all have shortcuts. This is the color picker. So when you go back to your image, you can actually hold control, and as you can see, probably, yeah, there's a red dot when you use control. So if I hold control, you can see here at the bottom that the values are changing because I'm actually sampling the color values of the pixels. And if I want a larger, I can go Control Shift and drag, and this will give you, the information here about the color value, which from memory, you can actually drag into a node. Let's say you have this, you can actually go in and drag it so you match the values of what you are selecting. And yeah, so I usually use tab to switch between 3D viewer and the regular 2D viewer. Top right, you have safe zones. So if I activate this, I can activate title safe, action safe, format center, and format. So you can see everything that's going on. And try it. Let's say you're adding titles and stuff. You want to be wary of those. Not so much more now that everything's in HD, so flat. But this was widely used during the NTSC or PAL all television. Here we have aspect ratio. So let's say you want to work in 2:3:5 and see how this actually crops in. You can add lines. So basically it'll give you everything in proportion to that particular aspect ratio. You can do AF, so this will add like an overlay to actually see what's in the frame. That's really useful if you're overworking an area at the bottom of the screen, but it's actually showing up in that area. It's used to conversation to say, let's stop working on it, because time is often money in our industry. And then you have full, which basically covers the whole thing. And then you can switch between all the different formats here. And then I have everything out to 0. Here it's to switch between proxy mode and full resolution. This is from experience. I don't know if it changed, but I always find it dangerous because some nodes at one point didn't switch properly. So I stopped using it a while ago. But basically, if you don't have the proper reformats everywhere, it's going to switch. But sometimes you forget that you have it on, and then you draw a roto shape, but it's based off the proxy. And when you go back, you have issues like getting it back to a proper state. Here, that's full frame processing. That's for your playback. This is a refresh. Sometimes some nodes will need a refresh of your computational node. Just going to remove this. There we go. Here it's ROI, region of interest. So let's say you have a slower computer and you're trying to just see a particular area in motion. So you can activate that and it'll just play that particular area. Here is pause. So if you have a tedious process and you want to pause this, this will be the place to go. Here you have all the different viewing options. So fit width. So basically it'll take into account. So let's say I do this and I create just a fit in here, height. If you want to full zoom in and out, so minus, 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 plus, 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 plus. H for height and home. So you can, there's values of, scaling into your shot. Control 1 being 1:1. So let's say you're doing work like this, but don't forget that your final image is still like this. So you might, again, be overworking something, but precision is good, but over precision and longer working times on a shot that's bid for 30 minutes and you're spending 10 days, it's not so good. So I think that basically covers it all. There's this for monitor out. So if you have oh, sorry about the scratching of my mic. Basically, if you have the output card, you can actually send this to a like HD 4K monitor or whatever. So that's really useful to watch because most of the time you're working on a low resolution monitor on your desktop and you can't see one-to-one. Having a monitor out, this will give you a proper view of your entire shot at the proper resolution. Thank you for watching. That was the viewer overview, and please be on the lookout for our next video. Thank you.